Welcome, my friends, tonight. Let us walk into a quiet evening long ago. The air is warm, dust rises under bare feet. Far away, people talk, laugh, and call to one another. Firelight shakes in the dark like little stars. The smell of earth, sweat, olive oil, and warm bread moves through the night. Somewhere, a runner breathes slowly. Somewhere, a crowd waits. Close your eyes and hear sandals on stone. Imagine a wide open place under a deep sky. Close your eyes and see strong bodies, soft light, and watching faces. Imagine a journey made not only of sport, but of dream and change. Have you ever watched a race and felt your heart move faster? Did you ever wonder why people from many lands come together to run, jump, and test themselves? How did this tradition begin? Why did simple games become something so big? What if these games were never only about winning? Have you ever asked what people were really searching for? And how did an old idea survive? Today, we will walk back in time in simple English, and we will learn through a real story. Long before cameras and giant stadiums, people gathered for a different kind of meeting. Records suggest that in the ancient Greek world, communities had strong pride and strong customs. Many cities stood apart from one another. They could trade, speak, argue, and sometimes fight. Travel was slow. News moved by foot, horse, and ship. So when people came together in one place, it mattered. Here is the surprising thing. These early games were not first imagined as a modern show for the whole world. They were part of a deeper life. They belonged to belief, ritual, memory, and public honor. In simple words, ritual means actions people repeat because they feel sacred or important. Many accounts describe a holy place where people gathered for festivals and contests. They came not only to watch strength. They came to pray, to remember, and to feel part of something larger than one town. Sport was there, yes, but so were faith, song, story, and shared feeling. That is why the dream of the Olympic Games began with more than muscle. It began with meaning. Say it with me: more than a game. At first, the contests may have seemed simple. A foot race, a test of speed, a body moving across open ground. But even a simple race can carry big emotion. Who is fastest? Who can hold steady under pressure? Who can keep going when the lungs burn and the legs feel heavy? These questions are very old. But there was a problem. When people care deeply, they also compare. They want honor, they want victory. They want their home to be remembered. So even in a sacred setting, pride could rise. Some came with joy, some came with tension. Some came with both. Isn't that still true now? As the gatherings grew, the dream grew too. More people arrived. More events appeared, more stories were told. Some were about speed, some were about power, some were about control, balance, and courage. Courage means strength inside the heart when something feels hard. The games became a stage where a person could show not only skill, but character, and that is when another idea became important. The athletes did not act alone. Behind each one stood teachers, families, friends, and a home city full of hope. One runner carried the dream of many. One victory could lift a whole community. One loss could still teach patience. Can you imagine walking into the field with everyone watching? Try this phrase: I carry my dream. The people who guided these gatherings had a difficult task. They needed order. They needed rules. They needed a way to welcome many people and still protect the meaning of the event. We do not have every detail, but many people say the games slowly became more organized over time. This is how a local tradition becomes a shared one. First, people gather. Then they repeat. Then they protect. Then they pass it on. Here's the surprising thing again. The Olympic idea was growing because it answered a human need. People wanted to test the body, yes, but they also wanted a meeting place. They wanted common ground. They wanted a reason to stop and say, we are different, but we are here together. Is that not powerful? In the ancient world, travel itself could be hard. Roads were long. Weather changed. Ships were uncertain. A journey to the games was not a small trip for fun. It took planning, effort, and trust. So when people finally arrived, the moment had weight. The ground was not just ground. It was a place full of dream. Repeat after me. We came together. Then something changed. As the games became known, stories about winners spread farther. A champion was not only a strong person. A champion became a symbol. Glory, a harder word, means great honor that many people praise. And once glory enters a story, more people want to join it. That brought both beauty and danger. Beauty. because the games inspired training, discipline, and shared excitement. Danger, because public praise can change the heart. Some people said the old spirit could weaken when pride grew too large. Some feared change, some welcomed it. Isn't every long tradition touched by this same struggle? Still, the games endured for years. Why? Because the idea inside them was strong. Human beings like to gather. We like to test ourselves. We like stories of loss, growth, return, and surprise. We like to believe that through discipline, a person can become more than they were before. And yet, this story was only beginning. The Olympic Games would not stay the same. Time was moving. Power was moving. Belief was moving. The world around the Games would change, and the Games would change with it. For a long time, the Games lived because people kept returning to them. They returned with hope, pride, and memory. They returned because a tradition becomes strong when many hands hold it. But even strong traditions can be shaken. Even bright dreams can dim. What happens when the world around a tradition changes too much? Here's the surprising thing. The Olympic Games were never protected from history. They lived inside history, and history is full of movement. Rulers rise, beliefs change, roads open and close, old customs lose power, new customs take their place. So the Games, like all human things, had to face change. Over time, the old world that carried the Games was no longer the same. The spirit of the place changed. Public life changed. Ideas about sacred festivals changed. Some accounts describe a slow fading, not one simple end. It happens little by little. One generation remembers. The next remembers less. Then one day what felt permanent is gone. Can you imagine that silence? A place once full of runners, voices, and cheering now growing still. Can you picture dust settling where people once gathered in hope? The Olympics were not only born. For a long time they were also lost. Say it with me. A dream can sleep. But there was a problem. Human beings do not like to lose beautiful ideas forever. Even when a tradition disappears, the memory of it can stay hidden like a seed in dry ground. Stories remain. Ruins remain. Old writings remain. And sometimes one question is enough to wake a sleeping dream. What was this place? Who came here? What did these games mean? Could something like this live again? For many years, people looked back at the ancient world with wonder. They saw broken stones, forgotten spaces, and old records, and they felt curiosity. Curiosity is a strong force. It says, look again, learn again, build again. That feeling slowly opened a new door. Then something changed. People in the modern world began to ask whether the old Olympic spirit could return in a new form. Not the same form. The world was different now. Travel was changing. Nations were thinking about identity in new ways. Education was changing too. Sports seemed to offer an answer. Some people said organized sport could teach discipline. Some said it could teach fairness. Some said it could bring young people hope. Others thought big international games were only a dream. Too large and too hard, they asked. Who will come? Who will pay? Who will agree on rules? Who will trust one another? And honestly, those were fair questions. Still, every great tradition begins again in the mind before it begins in the world. Someone has to believe first. Someone has to say, we can try. Someone has to take a sleeping dream and carry it into daylight. Records suggest that people with vision worked to turn the old Olympic memory into a modern gathering. Their goal was not only sport, their goal was also connection. Try this phrase. Let the dream return. This new dream carried both beauty and doubt. Beauty, because it offered a peaceful meeting through effort and skill. Doubt, because real life is never simple. Bringing people together sounds noble, but making it happen is hard. There must be places to gather, events to plan, rules to follow, and people willing to come from far away. There must be trust. There must be patience. There must be courage. And that is when the building work began. Not only building with stone and wood, but building with ideas. Plans had to be shaped. Traditions had to be chosen. Ceremonies had to be designed. A ceremony is a planned public act full of meaning. The old games had sacred feeling. The modern games needed meaning too. Here's the surprising thing again. The modern Olympics did not become powerful because they copied the ancient past exactly. They became powerful because they adapted. Adapt means to change shape so something can live in a new time. This is how old dreams survive. They do not stay frozen. They move. Little by little, a new version of the Olympics came into view, Athletes from different places would gather again. They would compete under shared rules. Crowds would watch. Stories would spread. Winners would be honored. But the larger dream was even bigger than medals. The deeper dream was this. Perhaps people who did not live together could still meet in one place with respect. Repeat after me. We meet through sport. Of course, the first modern efforts were not perfect. How could they be? New systems always shake when they first stand up. There were questions, limits, and mistakes. Some people likely doubted the scale. Some may have worried the dream would fail after only a short time. But then came the first payoff. The idea worked enough to continue. That is sometimes the greatest success at the beginning. Not perfection. Continuation. One gathering leads to another. One event proves the dream can breathe. One crowd sees the beauty and asks for more. The Olympics began to grow again, not as an ancient ritual exactly, but as a modern tradition with old roots. That made them special. They were both memory and invention, both past and future, both a return and a new beginning. Can you feel how rare that is? Can you see why people were moved by it? One more time, old roots, new life. Yet growth always brings danger. The bigger the games became, the more pressure came with them. Money can appear. Politics can appear. Pride can grow heavy. The same struggle from long ago can return in a new shape. Can a great event stay true to its dream? Can change help without harm? Those questions were waiting ahead. As the modern Olympics grew, the world watched closely. Here was an old dream walking in a new age. Athletes came not only to test speed or strength, but to stand before others and say, through action, this is what years of effort look like. Crowds saw more than contests. They saw discipline. They saw nerves. They saw people carrying the hope of home on their shoulders. But there was a problem. The larger the games became, the harder they were to protect. A small gathering can stay simple. A world event cannot. It needs money, planning buildings, travel judges, schedules, and work behind the scenes. And wherever great attention gathers, other forces gather too. Pride arrives. Business arrives. Politics arrives. Fear arrives. Can any human event grow big and stay pure? Can a dream remain gentle when the whole world is looking? Here's the surprising thing. The Olympics survived not because they were perfect, but because they kept finding new ways to remain useful. Again and again, the games faced pressure. Again and again, people had to ask what should stay and what should change. If nothing changed, the tradition could become weak. If too much changed, the heart of it could be lost. So the Olympics kept walking on a narrow road between memory and change. Some people loved the grand show. Some worried the grand show was becoming too loud. Some cared most about records and medals. Others cared more about peace, meeting, and human effort. Some asked, are the games still about the athlete? Others asked, were they ever only about the athlete? These questions still live with us now. And that is why the Olympic story is secret. It is not secret because no one knows it. It is secret because many people see only the outside. They see flags, crowds, lights, and final scores. But under those things is a deeper human story. It is the story of people trying to build meaning with rules, ritual, and repeated effort. It is the story of a dream that could have vanished, yet returned. Say it with me. Change can save. Think of one athlete for a moment. Not a famous name. Just one person. Perhaps they wake before sunrise. Perhaps they train when no one is watching. Perhaps they lose many times before one good day arrives. Perhaps they carry pain, doubt, and hope together. When that person enters the Olympic field, do they carry only themselves? Or do they carry parents, teachers, friends, memory and home? Is that not why people watching feel so much? The games endure because they turn private struggle into public meaning. Most hard work happens in silence. Most practice happens away from applause. But at the Olympics, quiet years become one visible moment. A jump, a throw, a race, a landing, a finish. Suddenly the hidden work can be seen. And when people see that, they remember something about their own lives. We all know what it means to try, fail, begin again, and hope. Try this phrase, begin again with courage. Of course, the Olympics cannot heal the whole world. No event can do that. People still disagree. Nations still compete. Human beings still bring pride, pain, and history with them. But here is the hopeful part. For a brief time, the games ask the world to look at effort instead of anger, skill instead of hate, and discipline instead of noise. Is that enough to solve everything? No. But can it still matter deeply? Yes. Then something changed again, as it always does. The Olympics became not just a sports event, but a symbol recognized almost everywhere. Children learn its name. Families gather to watch. People speak about records, upsets, tears, and joy. A symbol is something simple that carries a larger meaning. The Olympics became a symbol of striving and human possibility. Repeat after me. The dream keeps moving. And yet, every generation must choose what the games mean. That work never ends. Will the focus stay only on winning? Or will people protect the deeper heart of the tradition? Will athletes be treated with care? Will the games welcome the world with respect? Will the old dream of meeting through effort remain alive? These are not small questions. Here's the surprising thing. The legacy of the Olympics is not only in medals, records, or ceremonies. The true legacy lives in what the games teach us about being human. We build things that are fragile. We argue about them. We almost lose them. Then, with patience, we rebuild them. We carry forward what matters. We let some parts change so the deeper dream can live. That is why we still care today. We care because the Olympics are a mirror. In a mirror, we see ourselves. We see dream and fear. We see pride and discipline. We see change and memory. We see how much people want to belong to something larger than one ordinary day. One more time. Carry the dream forward. Think about your own life tonight. What will you build, even if others do not understand it at first? What dream in you is sleeping, waiting to wake? What part of your heart still believes that effort can become meaning? Keep those questions close. Maybe your field is not a stadium. Maybe your race is quiet and unseen. Maybe your challenge is small to the world, but large to you. It still matters. Your practice matters. Your courage matters. Your slow steps matter. This is how human stories move forward. So when you next hear the word Olympics, remember this hidden journey. An old gathering. A lost tradition. A modern return. A long struggle to protect a dream through change. That is the secret history resting under the bright surface. Thank you for walking through this story with me in simple English. Rest well, keep hope near your heart, and may your own dream find its path home. Good night, my friends.